Let me see if I can put these cameras together so that I don't have to work so hard. How are you, everybody? Whew. All right. Crazy morning this morning. It becomes crazy when you have a new puppy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to come on. Meanwhile, I'm going to have a little sip of my golden milk turmeric. And my mom's probably going, ew. My mom doesn't like any of these things. Cinnamon, turmeric. Some milk. Pretty darn good for me. I realized I don't like teas. I don't like... Hola, Lee. ¿Cómo estás? Vi tu mensaje, pero no tuve ni un segundo de leerlo. Al rato te contesto. So, where do we begin? Where to begin today? Okay, so first of all, here's a confession. And in case you haven't noticed, if you've been around me long enough, you know this, so it'll be no surprise to you. But if you're new to my world, first of all, I'd love it if you say hi. I'd like to welcome you and make sure that you feel acknowledged. Sometimes the thing will tell me there's a certain amount of people, and it's just, I don't know how it works, because sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. And if you don't type in anything, sometimes you're invisible to me. So if I don't see you, if I don't acknowledge you, just know that I am thrilled to have you in my world, and welcome. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is that confession. And like I said, if you've been around me, you know I have very, very nervous energy within me. It's not something I enjoy. It's not something I'm proud of, but it's apparently how I'm wired. So I've learned to use that energy as my superpower. It was very difficult to do, but I've worked very diligently at managing my energy and my emotions. I'm also very, very emotional. You'll see me crying if I'm happy. You'll see me crying if I'm sad. You'll see me crying if I'm angry. Like the gamut of emotions and result in tears for me. And at first, like for so many years, first of all, I was labeled and judged a lot. I was called names. I was called a drama queen. I was called a bunch of stuff. And so it hurt my feelings. So what do you think it did? It made me cry even more. But I learned to manage those energies. The first time one of my coaches told me, what is the thing about you that you dislike the most? And I said, that I'm so emotional. And he said, well, that's your superpower. And I was so angry. I was like, what? I don't want to hear. That's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear how to get rid of them, or how to just not be a hostage to them, right? And it turns out that that was exactly what I needed to do, to learn to not be hostage of it. So what is the thing that just makes you crazy about yourself? Because we all have one or two or more things that drive us crazy about ourselves, right? I've never met anyone, truthfully, even the most like out there narcissist, who doesn't have something that they feel like, oh my God, if I could just not have that in my life, if I could just not be that way, if I would just learn not to react that way. So for me, it's been a long journey of managing emotions and managing my feelings, because I feel so intensely, and also managing that nervous energy. So I spend a lot of time researching. Years I've been doing research on how to manage my emotions, working on stuff, practicing continuously. And one of the things that I keep saying that has been the greatest gift in my life is this little machine right here. It's the Healy energy device, frequency device. It's a sound healing device. It's tiny. Like I said, when I first came in contact with it, I saw a video and I thought it was a mat. And then I realized it's this portable little box. And it has really helped me managing my energy. It helps me raise my vibrational frequency very quickly, helps me get out of wonky moods. It helps me have mental clarity, and it also gets rid of any kind of pain in my body, which is pretty darn amazing. Now, all of these, I have to do a disclaimer, they're my opinions. This device has been approved as a class 2A medical device for the treatment of anxiety, depression, stress, and chronic and regular pain. So if you have chronic pain, back pain, and stuff like that, it is incredible. People with migraines report amazing results. It's just this little machine is, I believe, in my opinion, taking the world by storm. It's a new way of managing our physical well-being and our health. And if you want more information about it, I'll be happy to send you anything you'd like to know about this, because, wow, having such powerful device in my life is really, I see my life transforming. I see myself being able to set limits where before I wouldn't have set them, be less afraid of speaking my truth. And you might think, I'm here every week speaking and saying what I think and, ranting and raving. But it's still a challenge for me to show up every week and actually here, bare my soul to you guys and say, yeah, this is how I'm feeling. This is how it is. This is how I see things, in the hopes that whatever I say, whatever I bring to you, you might find use in it. You might find some practical application of whatever I say, and you can go, oh my God, that resonates. Oh my gosh, that information really makes a difference. And you can begin to have change in your life effortlessly, with sweetness, with kindness, with love, because I am so tired of no pain, no gain. Going through so much pain is just debilitating. And what if it was just a switch in paradigms? What if we could just say no pain, no gain? What if we could just say, I don't need to learn that lesson that way anymore. I can learn it in a more easeful, joyful way. What if I were willing to learn my life lessons in a way that was smooth sailing and not with so much pain? So all of the tools. Hi, Tammy. Welcome. Welcome. So what if we got tools, right, that we could apply? What if we hear something that changes inherently in us immediately, that you can now not know, you cannot unknow it, you cannot unsee it. It has changed you fundamentally just by hearing it, just by something clicking inside of us, right? And that is my aim. That is always my intention, giving you that kind of tool. For example, giving you a shortcut, right? If somebody tells me, oh, if you make a right over here, it's going to save 10 minutes on your trip. I'm not going to spend 3 days analyzing whether, this is the right choice, or doing a list of pros and cons. I'm just going to take the shortcut. And so my aim is to give you continuously as many shortcuts as possible. And so the sound does that. Sound does that. This machine, because it is so aligned with what I do, it is sound frequencies that are getting sent out into your energy field, and you completely just change inherently. And it goes to the root cause of things. And I don't know if you heard this, but after a week of using the Healy, when I first got it, I woke myself from giggling. I was laughing so much in my dreams that I literally woke myself up. And I thought, what a cool thing that was, because when I grew up, I was always laughing with my friends and having such a wonderful time. I would laugh so much. And my parents would never know, because I would come into my house. It was like a double life I was leading. I was the grouch in my house, but I left my house and I was just like, had so much fun with my friends. And I just was so silly. And I just felt the freedom to be without a lot of judgment. And I would just laugh myself. I tickle myself. Like, my humor is silly, nothing deep. It's very, very Mexican humor. And I just love to laugh. And that waking myself up from laughing was one of the greatest gifts that I've received from this tiny little machine. Also, for me, it's wonderful because I do sessions for a lot of people, and now I don't have to work as hard. I don't have to. It's like this little thing takes care of so much. Then I can just go and take a few knots that might be left. I can go in and do my magic, but this thing kind of paves the way for it. And God it's been so amazing. So that's it. That's it about the Healy. If you want more information, let me know. I'd be happy to share this and invite you to learn more about it. Even if, if all you want to do is just hear about what new technology does. This, one of my heroes is Nikola Tesla, and this is his technology. I mean, I know if he were alive, he would be like totally on board with this and so happy about this little tiny machine. Anyway, enough about the Healy. Today we're going to talk about trust. I have been following the astrology for the Earth. I have a friend who's an amazing astrologer. I just love to hear about astrology. I think it's so much darn work. It is so intense. It's I would have to, I think, spend whole 20 years of my life studying in order to become really great at it. And so I'd rather just listen to the people that I trust. My friend has done that. She spent the last 20 years studying astrology. She finally settled on Vedic astrology. And there's two things she's told me that have been so incredible. She had told me that she saw on planet Earth the transit or the planets positioned in a way that meant jail. She says that whenever she sees this configuration in someone's chart, she knows that that person is going to jail, literal physical jail, and that they are not going to be able to, there's no going around it. And that the Earth had that configuration, that setup. And she was like, this is so weird. She'd never, ever encountered that. And she saw this last year, and she's like, there's a weird transit about the Earth going to jail, and I just don't understand. And so now here we have it, right? The second thing she told me was that September and October, like middle September, October, and mid-November, kind of like that, we're going to be the two toughest months globally for the Earth as it stands, even harder than the jail time that we experienced. So I've been kind of like ninja position, like going like, where am I going to get hit from? And it's been weird and intense. It's not over, apparently. And so I've been doing a lot of introspection about what's going on right now, about how interesting that these transits have been on these specific timings, right? And now we're at the tail end, thank you, Lord, of Mercury retrograde. Now, I read somewhere else that I was going to have a cruising time. I had already bought my popcorn, was ready to watch the show, jump in to help a few people if I needed to, but I didn't know I was going to be the star of the show. And it really blindsided me, this Mercury. It's been rough. But the US elections fall on the 3rd, which is when the retrograde ends. And now this is not a political show today. I've done a political show. I'm not going to go there today. So if you're starting to panic, don't panic. This is all about how we perceive our reality. We all have a way of perceiving our reality, and whatever happens in our life, in our world, we create it from our thoughts. Now, I've said this plenty of times. Whenever I was told this the first time, I was so mad. I'm like, why would I create this chaos in my life? But I slowly, through the years, it became very clear to me that we do. I went in deep and started studying why that was. And then people were saying how, I learned that our conscious mind is only responsible for 2 to 5% of our reality, where the rest, the 95 to 98%, is guided or ruled or manifested, actualized by our subconscious mind. So then I thought, okay, so how do you fix that, right? Because for me, it's all about, well, how do I change that? How do I hack it so that I can have what I want with ease? And then I realized that it went deeper than that we have beliefs that we are born into that we never question, like we're born into them, right? We were born into whatever country we were born in, and things were handled the way they're handled, and our family does things the way they do things, and our community does things the way they do things. And there's been a lot of moving around because people get like, I think there's been a lot of awakening, and it's like, well, if you don't agree with this, I want to explore the world. I want to see how other people work and function and live their lives, right? And it has created an opening and a new way of looking at the world, where the world has become smaller and smaller. So whatever happens in one area affects the whole. Whatever happens in my life affects the whole. And when people tell me, well, I'm not important, a lot of people are going through anxiety, depression. They feel like they can't handle things. They feel like they're not needed. There's nothing we could change what happened yesterday. Exactly what happened yesterday. It really, really doesn't matter. That's right. Tammy's saying over here on Facebook that it's nothing we could change. What happened yesterday doesn't matter. But see, here's the thing. A lot of people feel like they are not needed right now, or they can't handle things. And what I like to say to those people is that you are so important. Imagine that you have 1,000-piece puzzle, and you get to the very end, you've put in 999 pieces in, and then there's one piece missing. Eek, that is not a good feeling, right? It doesn't give you a good feeling. It's like, oh my God, I've done all this work, and then for this piece to be missing. So yeah, you're needed. Yes, you're here for a reason. Yes, you made an agreement about what you were going to do, what you were going to come here for, and you are important as any of the pieces. And so my point here is that we all experience reality according to our beliefs. And our beliefs are also managed by our physiology. Our bodies are a machine that uses certain fluids, let's call them, to run. These are hormones. And so we have a nervous system that is composed of two branches, the parasympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system. And somehow in the society that we're living in, we have figured out a way of keeping one of the branches running constantly. Like it's like they don't function simultaneously, so one has to be shut off for the other one to turn on. But for some reason, we've decided to run on adrenaline, on stress, right? Cortisol a lot more of the time. So we're kind of limping through life that way because we're always with this low grade stress happening. And so then some of us decide, well, I don't like to live like that. I need to change this. And we begin doing stuff like meditation, exercising, having fun with friends, taking breaks, doing whatever we need to do to handle and manage this nervous system thing that we got going. And what happens is we begin to experience some peace. But then because we're used to having this nervous system going on, we have this stress happening, then we go into peace and our bodies are not used to not having those hormones running. They have the other cocktail going on and it feels good, but we're so used to the other one with the stress flowing through our veins that the body sends a signal to the subconscious mind of the reticular activating system saying, hey, I need more cortisol. I need more adrenaline. I need to feel stressed. I'm feeling really good right now and it doesn't feel good because I'm feeling really good. I rather feel bad because I know how that feels. I know how to handle that. So the reticular activating system, this is a network of neurons through which we see life. That's the one that has all the programming. Will be like, okay, I'm on it, and starts looking for things to show up that will trigger the release of those hormones. And then the body goes, okay, I got my fix. So basically, I'm saying we're addicts. Yes, I'm saying we're addicts. We're adrenaline junkies. That's why people go to the roller coaster. That's why people go to the amusement parks that have all these games that are like, then that's why people watch horror movies, right? That is why, because they want that release of the hormones. But then we go, it's like, oh, but that feel good part was actually really good. So we begin to work at it so that we have more time in between the feeling stressed. Eventually, we're going to flip the coin where we're going to feel good more of the time than bad. And it's going to be the other way around. Our body will be like, I'm too stressed right now. You'll start to recognize, and that happened to me, you'll start to recognize when you're going back into that stress. And it's like, oh no, that was really bad. Now I've learned to feel good, to have clarity, to be able to be relaxed, to be able to be happy. I don't like to be being stressed and cranky and, just not generally happy. And it begins to turn the tide. So now what happens to me is when I start feeling the stress, I'm like, hey, hold on a minute. I know you need your fix, but can we do it in a more gentle way? And you begin to be at cause instead of at effect. Now, what does that have to do with trusting in God? Well, if we go to the idea or the concept that everything that happens in our lives happens for us and not against us, then whatever reality we're living is here to support us in our growth. It's here to support us on our path. Some of these things happen and they're horrible, and that's what finally triggers us to actually do what we were meant here to do. Some of these experiences we wish we never experienced, but they create some sort of change, or they finally push us to go to say, that's enough. I can't deal with this. I'm going to do something about it, right? Or when you're like putting on weight and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, enough. Now I'm going to take action. I can't continue like this anymore. And you start exercising, eating well, and whatever, and you get things under control, right? But it's a decision that comes from within. So what I'm saying, without going into political arena, just so that we are clear that the whole, like my expectation, my prayer is that we are able to hear each other, because a lot of the times we're saying the same thing, but we're saying it in a different way, and we just don't hear each other. And a lot of discord happens, and a lot of unnecessary arguments, a lot of unnecessary pain. And a lot of the times these fights, these arguments come from a wound that we're all carrying, because we all have our own wound. And so if it is true that we're creating our reality and whatever happens is for us, it doesn't matter what's going to happen in the next few days or in the next few months. What we should focus on is, okay, what can I learn from this? Or how can I create a reality where there doesn't have to be so much pain? Now, I am a person who doesn't like to be told what to do. I don't like to put stuff in my body. I don't like I didn't even listen to my OBGYN when I was pregnant, who kept telling me to take Tylenol every time I had any kind of ache and pain. I didn't take a single Tylenol until the day that I went into labor, because they told me I was not in labor and I was in so much pain. I was popping Tylenols like they were M&Ms. But that was an extreme case, right? But my entire pregnancy, I did not even take a Tylenol, because something in me said, something's wrong with that. I don't want to do that. I felt like it would stay in my liver and it would not be able to get processed, and I didn't want to give that to my baby. 2 years later, studies came out that proved that. But 2 years earlier, I was called crazy, and my doctor thought I was ridiculous by subjecting my body to the pain. I came to him and said, no, we need to find out why I'm in pain and deal with the cause. I like to go to the root of things. And so, by the same token, I don't think that the idea of somebody telling me I have to put stuff in my body terrifies me. And I don't agree with it. And that's why I live in this country. That's why I came to this country. This country was the country that said yes to me for everything that I've ever wanted to do. It's always supported me. It's always been here. I was born in Mexico, and Mexico, for some reason, I guess it was my destiny. Everything I wanted to do seemed to always be a no. It's like I wanted to study music. I was 8 years old and they told me I was too old. Then I wanted to study dance. I was like, I missed the boat. I was like 8 years old. No, I missed the train. When I went back at 10, when I went back at 12, I kept going back saying, but I want to dance, And it was like, no, you're too old. You're too old. You're too old. And then I got to New York and my mentor was like, don't ever let anybody tell you you're too old. Don't let anybody ever tell you can't do something. You set your mind to it, you can do it. And once a dancer, always a dancer. And that is something that has lived with me through my entire life. And I always felt like whenever I set my mind to do things in this country, it just like the doors would fly open and I would get supported. So I love the pain pills give you migraines. It's worse than the pain. Exactly. Because they're not addressing the cause of the pain. And so you're just putting more poison in your body. But, that's just one of my very strong personal opinions. And so back to getting back on track here. I love this country. I love my country where I was born. And I love this country so much because it's given me so much. And so my desire is that that we all do what's in our hearts and we allow everybody else to do the same. We are in allowance of freedom of choosing. And then whomever gets elected or whatever, whomever gets chosen, let's just all work for the world we want to see happen. Because it's not the job of that person. That person is not our dad. It's not our God. They are not responsible for us. We are responsible for ourselves. So when we take full responsibility for us and for our well-being, and then we take the steps and we take the actions, then we make the world a better place, because as inside, so outside. So then if we're creating our microcosm of well-being, that will get reflected on the outside. And like that puzzle, that piece is going to start emanating light, that will start getting, emanating light to the next piece over. And that person will get touched by that. And then they'll start emanating more light. And then it'll be, all of a sudden we'll have a panel completely lit up with light, with love, with understanding, as opposed to judgment and fighting and stupidity, and trying to force people to do things they don't want to do and judging them for it. It's like live and let live kind of situation right now. And I think when we do that, and when we stop telling people what we want them to do, our kids, our parents, our friends, our associates, and start listening more, and start allowing, being the space for freedom to expand, then that's going to get reflected back to us. If we go back to the principles on which this country was founded, freedom and liberty for all, right? Or whatever the Pledge of Allegiance is. I'm terrible at remembering. But if we go back to the basics, and a friend of mine and I were talking, and if you go and you vote with love in your heart, as opposed of with hatred for somebody else, then we can be creating the change just in the intention with which we do things. When we become intentional about everything we do. If we're going to react to someone, if we are able to stop ourselves and think, okay, is this going to advance the situation or is this going to make it worse? And if you realize it's going to make it worse, then you stop yourself and take another approach. Things have a tendency to work out so much better because we're not acting from the primal brain. We're not acting from the body going, I need adrenaline. So go find some road rage. Somebody that'll cut you off so you can have some road rage and you can just release that adrenaline into your system. And I hope this is all making sense and we're tying these loose ends, because I know I talk about this and that, but I'm trying to bring it all together by explaining that when we do things based on our true desires, and if you hear that my house is kind of falling apart, it's not. I gave my puppy a bone that I cat cooked and she's bouncing it around, but it's just like I hear her like, I don't know, making a lot of noise upstairs. But she's safe. She's safe in her crate, eating her bone. And so when we operate from a place of love, from our prefrontal cortex, where all of our smarts are, where our intelligence, where our free will, where our ability to discern things is located, instead of our primal brain, which is fight, flight, or freeze, and we stop fighting because we feel the need to defend ourselves constantly, there's a space. There's a space between the action And then instead of becoming a reaction, it becomes a response. And when that happens, we allow for magic to happen, because then sometimes what happens is we allow the other person to feel heard. And sometimes that's all we want, right? We just want to be heard. We just want to be seen. We just want to be acknowledged. And so people who are screaming and going, just fighting and stuff, it's like they're so tired of not being seen or treated nicely or acknowledged. So why don't we start with the people closest to us? Why don't we start with our children? Have you noticed them? Have you really seen them? Have you been present for them today? How about your neighbors? One of my coaches was like, I make sure that when I buy supplies, I buy enough in case one of my neighbors needs some of this, so that they know that they can count on me. And I was thinking, gee, I think I know 4 of my neighbors in this whole block. And I've been here a while, and I have not made an effort to go meet my neighbors. We just met, and it was like kind of like a thing happened, and then I know them, but it hasn't been an intentional, purposeful thing. And she got me thinking, it's like, okay, so if we made it a mission just to know our neighbors and to let them know that we've got their back, how much can we change the world if everybody did that on each block and we all took responsibility for ourselves to meet all of our neighbors? Like, how many do you think there are on my block? I don't know, 30 people, 40 people? I don't know. I have no idea. I could start by figuring it out. Like, well, there's like 50 people in my block. I don't know. I have no idea. In your building, like, do you live in a building? Do you know your neighbors? Can you go borrow a cup of sugar from your neighbor? Do they know that they can borrow a cup of sugar from you? How different would life be if we were to do that? So all I'm saying is, in the end, I know in every fiber of my being that God has my back. And I hope you know that God has yours. Whatever happens is going to happen for us and not against us. A lot of magic has come out of this crazy jail time. People had wanted for years to have the world stop. And I'm not talking about the people who got affected by this gosh darn virus. My heart goes out to the families of the people who were lost in this whole thing and the people who had to go through it. I cannot imagine what a horrible experience that must be and has been. The rest of the people, there were a lot of people who wanted the world to stop. Well, we got our wish, right? The world kind of just stopped. And there was a lot of opportunity. I could see a lot of people taking the opportunity to create new things. The things that have come out of this have been absolutely magical. Some people couldn't handle it and they went south, right? But some people were like, what can I do to make this a better world? And so my call is to know that God has our back, that we can trust that whatever happens is for our growth. Maybe it is for us to finally say, this is enough. I don't know what's going to happen. I will not even attempt to hazard a guess. My thing, for me personally, I just feel like we're getting played from both sides, frankly. I just feel I'm getting played. But guess what? I have issues with betrayal. And so whatever happens, I'm like, this guy's no. I'm getting played by this one. I'm getting played by this one, right? I see things the way that I experience my own life that comes from my wounding. And is it the reality? God knows it's my reality, right? So maybe it's a process where I'm going to need to learn to really, really, really trust. Hey, Julia, right? And learn to really trust, surrender, and live what I preach, which is to surrender, to trust in God, that God has my back, and just go wee, and keep spreading love and keep spreading the cheer and making sure that my vibration, my frequency vibration is high at all times, so that I can be an agent for good, that I can be an agent for cheer. And so here we go. Get ready for the sound bath. I am praying that Violet is going to let us have our sound bath, because I hear her crying. She screams a lot. I apologize, but she's a baby. And now she's done with her bone. See, this is incredible. They give me these bones and they're like, oh, it's going to last her 2 days. And they last her 20 minutes. But anyway, shh. So place your feet flat on the ground. Now, one of the things that the Dalai Lama says is that you can prove you're a great meditator if you can go on Grand Central Station and still hold your space. So we might have to apply some of the Dalai Lama principles here and ignore the screaming of the dog. All right. Hands in a receiving position on your thighs. Do 3 to 6 cleansing breaths, whatever you're guided, you're called to do. Inhale through your nose very deeply. Hold for 1, 2, or 3 counts, whatever feels natural and organic. And then exhale with a big and let it all go. This is impossible today. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, come back if you were able to even meditate. Take a deep clearing breath. Allow the silence to happen. Connect to your heart. Through this practice, I've been able to connect and tap into that knowing and hear my own voice, my own calling, loud and clear, even through all the noise, cutting through all the noise, cutting through all the craziness. Be still and know. And I think that's part of it. Finding that stillness, finding the eye of the hurricane that is within us. And no matter what is going on around us, be able to find that peace, find that stillness, and know our own answers to our own lives, to our own path, because we're all in our own lane, single solitary lane, and we're all intersecting with each other. But we all have our own decisions to make, our own callings to follow, and following our heart's desire, following our intuition. I can tell you it has been the best thing that's ever happened to me when I learned to listen to my gut as opposed to my noggin. My noggin can make a lot of mistakes, but for some reason, this part of me always knows. Always knows. Natasha, welcome. So good to see you here. So, let's all take a deep breath and connect to that inner wisdom. And allow the goodness, the love that we are to flow through us. And just choose to be happy and at peace no matter what. A little shake, come back. And yes, this doggy is going to be going up for adoption. Soon as this retrograde is over, I just didn't want to send her off during the retrograde. Hanging in there for dear life. So yes, testing me, right? Everything happens for us. So what can I learn from this experience? And how can I make sure that this doggy gets taken care of in the most incredible way? So I will see you all next week, praying that everything is going to be peaceful and that we're all going to have more understanding and that things are going to be better than they ever were. I love you all, and I'll see you next week.